Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are unpacking an absolutely wild, high-stakes story where the line between gaming and reality doesn't just blur, it completely shatters. Picture this. Imagine being the undisputed #1 ranked player in the most brutally unforgiving video game ever created. I mean, you have conquered every impossible challenge, and then the servers shut down. But instead of your screen going black, a system window pops up right in your actual real-life vision. The apocalypse has arrived, and it's using the exact rulebook of the game you've literally just mastered.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is exactly what happens to our protagonist Kay. He's just standing in an elevator, right? Minding his own business, when suddenly he gets a notification that he has exactly 1 minute to escape before parasites eat him alive. He forces the doors open, gasping for breath, only to realize the world outside has changed forever. Portals are ripping open everywhere. Monsters are literally pouring into the streets. What used to be a screen-bound simulation has instantly rebooted as a global nightmare. And for Kay, this means those hardcore survival skills he spent years perfecting, yeah, they're now the only thing keeping him from a very gruesome death.
Section 1. Reality becomes the hardest game.
To understand how Kay survives these insane first moments, we've got to look at the mechanics of this new reality. The world has basically entered the tutorial stage of the apocalypse, and the core threat here is something called dungeonization. This is a sudden, terrifying event where portals spit out monsters, and if they aren't cleared out in time, the area completely breaks, spilling these multiplying horrors straight into the city. Kay finds himself in a building undergoing this exact process. Goblins are actively slaughtering families in the hallways. It is total chaos. But Kay, he knows a secret mechanic, a bug. You see, when a boss monster is first dragged to Earth, it suffers from a 1-minute spawn freeze while its body adjusts to the new environment. Kay literally counts down the seconds, exploits this exact window of vulnerability, and brutally decapitates the giant goblin boss, single-handedly stopping his apartment building from becoming a permanent dungeon.
So, the crucial point is, the stakes have fundamentally changed. Think about it. In the original game, Kay reached the #1 rank, sure, but he did it by burning through dozens of accounts because each account was granted 3 lives. Now, he's only got 1 life. If he dies here, there's absolutely no respawn screen. There's no loading a previous save. The margin for error is absolute 0. And yet, he's still drawn to the highest difficulty because he absolutely knows it holds the best rewards necessary for long-term survival.
While Kay is busy handling goblins, the rest of Korea is completely falling apart. But hey, not everyone is helpless. Let's talk about Choi Hana. To the general public, she is this sweet, beloved national idol. But in the game, oh man, she was known as Clark, a middle-aged, ruthless, god-tier gunslinger, and literally one of the top 12 rankers in the whole world. When a ghoul steps out of a portal right in front of her panicked manager, Hana doesn't even flinch. She materializes her magic revolver straight from the old servers, waits for the system to sync up, and absolutely blasts the monster away with a single shot. With her dual identity locked in, her first goal becomes crystal clear. She needs to find the one player out there who's actually better than her. She needs to find Kay.
Section 2. Labyrinth of Hellish Choices.
Let's see how this builds. Because Kay doesn't just survive that initial outbreak. No. He actively seeks out the absolute worst the tutorial has to offer. Stepping into the tutorial's labyrinth of choices, Kay selects Infernal Difficulty. To put that into perspective, out of 100 players who might attempt this globally, it's essentially a suicide mission. His objective is to protect a statue from these massive stone golems, but the system is rigged. It aggressively stacks movement debuffs on him every 5 seconds, slowing him down to an agonizing crawl while the monsters just keep speeding up. It requires him to perfectly read attack patterns before they even happen. When the small golems eventually fuse into this massive giant golem, Kay equips a gigantic weapon called Murek's Hammer. He tactically shatters the golem's leg just to bring it down to his level and then obliterates its core, clearing a level that literally no one else on Earth could survive.
But listen, this victory comes at a massive cost. While Kay is busy speed-running demonic bosses and slicing his way through the infernal scenarios, time is moving completely differently. When he finally steps back through a portal to return to Earth, he realizes a terrifying truth. What felt like a short, intense grind in the labyrinth actually took 3 full months in reality. The world he left behind has had 90 days to completely descend into hell.
Section 3. Gathering the Ultimate Raid Team.
Returning to a totally unrecognizable soul, Kay discovers an E-rank dungeon forming at a local high school. Inside, A brave police detective named Deizu is desperately trying to keep a group of survivors alive. But here's the twist. Inside this dungeon, the survivors aren't just fighting monsters. They are being hunted by other humans, specifically a PK, or player killer. These are red players who literally murder other people to steal their experience and items. They are the absolute worst of the worst. Detective Deizu finds himself cornered by an escaped death row convict who's using explosive magic just to toy with him. Just as the convict is about to execute Deizu, Kei arrives. Recognizing the PK for the absolute monster he is, Kei dodges a barrage of explosions, closes the distance in a blink, and delivers a swift, fatal slash. He proves right then and there that he has zero tolerance for human predators.
This intense rescue leads Kei straight to Hana, who is currently pinned down by a D-class boss, the Death Knight. She's exhausted, totally out of options, and is quite literally about to be cut in two when Kei steps in and blocks the massive strike. What follows is just a beautiful display of unspoken synergy between these two top rankers. Kei borrows Deizu's level 80 sealed sword, completely bypassing the level restriction with his sheer, overpowered stats, while Hana lays down some heavy, perfectly timed, stunning sniper fire. Using the distraction, Kei unleashes a devastating water-based finisher, piercing the Demon Lord with a move called Furious Waves. The boss is instantly liquidated.
And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic of this newly formed team. We have Kei doing the vast majority of the heavy lifting, like 90% of it. Hana is providing elite support, Dasu is offering solid tactical leadership, and then, well, there's Han. Han is a former high school bully who actually used to torment Kei back in the day. Now, Han is effectively dead weight. He's completely terrified and struggling to comprehend that the kid he used to push around is now basically a god.
Section 4. The Underground Mutant Massacre.
With the survivors finally secured, the team's journey takes them deep into an abandoned, forgotten ghost station, searching for missing people. But what they find down there is far, far worse than your standard dungeon monsters. They encounter the POA virus. This horrific infection doesn't just kill humans, it mutates them into greedy ones, monsters that literally evolve based on their darkest, most twisted human desires. Like a blind person might become a giant mutated eye. It's messed up. As they fight through these tragic, grotesque enemies, Kei realizes something sinister. The infection rate is way too fast. Monsters don't just evolve like this naturally. Someone, or something, is artificially accelerating these dungeon breaks by feeding the monsters rare items. So who is pulling the strings here?
Well, here is your culprit, the company. Marked by a lightning bolt piercing 2 moons, this was a notoriously dark faction guild from the original game, totally known for their cruelty and exploitation. And now, they exist in reality. They are intentionally weaponizing the POA virus to breed stronger monsters and force massive, uncontainable dungeon breaks all across the city.
The group ends up running headfirst into one of the company's creations, a trigger monster. And not just any monster, it's the mutated form of Chomani, who is this deranged, cannibalistic streamer. To take down this colossal, multi-armed abomination, they have to execute a flawless team combo. First, Hana draws its attention. Then, Kei strikes it bare-handed with a rotting skill. Even the cowardly Han somehow plays a role, firing a desperate shot directly into its gaping mouth. This opens the perfect window for Kei to dump literally all his saved stat points into magic power. He leaps into the air and completely obliterates the beast in one apocalyptic blast.
Section 5. Hijacking the Ghost Train. Following the bloody trail of the company's victims, the team boards the Class 5001 Ghost Train. Now, this isn't just a vehicle. The train itself is a high-level moving themed dungeon. Inside, they uncover a sickening operation. Goblin collectors and cruel merchants have been scamming desperate players into signing these totally predatory contracts. When the players inevitably default, their souls are literally ripped from their bodies, leaving them as mindless husks. Their souls are then trapped in the bodies of weak, pathetic monsters called kobolds. Debts get paid. That's their terrifying motto. It is a literal black market of human lives, and Kei is absolutely disgusted by the whole thing.
What follows is a sequence of pure, unadulterated chaos. Kei bypasses the train's puzzle mechanics by just beating the giant goblin conductor to a pulp. I mean, why solve a puzzle when you can just smash it, right? They then team up with Jack, the original legendary scammer merchant from the game, who, plot twist, is actually just a 14-year-old kid in real life.
Jack is tracking down a fake Jack who stole his identity to run this soul trafficking ring. The ensuing battle in the black market car is absolute madness. They end up awakening a terrifying ghost boss called a Banshee, the fake Jack loses control of his ultimate bodyguard, this massive lichen monster, and the entire train threatens to completely derail under the sheer destructive force of it all.
To stop the rampaging lichen from slaughtering everyone on board, Kay makes a desperate move. He equips the Goblin King's hat. This item absorbs the anguished souls of the scam children, wrapping Kay in this dark, ghostly armor. With this overwhelming power, he easily brings the monstrous lichen to its knees. But, realizing the hat is draining the children's souls to power him, Kay actually transfers the crown to the lichen itself, binding the beast to his will. The massive monster shrinks down into an adorable, tiny chibi companion that now desperately seeks Kay's approval. It's kinda hilarious, honestly.
Section 6. Amusement Park of Worst Fears.
So, to permanently free those trapped souls, they need an item called the Goblin Orb. This leads the team to a corrupted amusement park known as Bermuda, also known as Lottie World. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is the zone's unique mechanic. At first glance, the park looks entirely normal. It's populated by cheering families, bright lights, the whole shebang. It is a perfect illusion. But the exact moment they engage a threat, the illusion shatters. Day instantly turns to pitch black night, and Monster Night begins. But these aren't your standard random spawns. The dungeon literally scans the memories of whoever enters and manifests their deepest, darkest fears into physical reality. For Han, it's a giant, horrific centipede. For others, it's trauma from past failures.
But for Kay, a man who has beaten the hardest game ever made, his fears are on an entirely different level. The dungeon spawns 2 apocalyptic threats for him. First, Kamucho, an S-Class level 500 black dragon that famously killed Kay in the original game. And second, an evil, full-power clone of Kay's own avatar. Facing an unbeatable dragon and a dark mirror of his own god-tier abilities, Kay realizes he cannot win a head-to-head fight here. It's just too much. So, he uses the clone to distract the dragon, creating just enough chaos for the rest of his team to escape in a military truck.
Knowing the company is manipulating this dungeon for their own sick goals, Kay decides to end it at the source. He dives headfirst into the core portal, only to have the system detect his unique items and forcibly separate him from the rest of the group. As our explainer wraps up today, Hana, Han, and the Chibi Lycan are left totally stranded in a nightmare amusement park, surrounded by literal manifestations of their worst fears. Meanwhile, Kay is teleported away to face the mysterious dungeon puppeteer completely alone. How are they going to survive without their overpowered leader? You're definitely going to want to find out what happens next. So, what do you think the puppeteer's endgame really is? Think about it, and until next time, keep leveling up.